you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. This episode is brought to you by Big Tech's Ordnance, your soon-to-be favorite retailer for all of your firearms needs. BTO believes in only selling high-quality gear for responsibly armed citizens, as well as providing pre- and post-sale support. BTO values firearms training and supports firearms instructors nationwide. They even pay for their own staff to train with high-level instructors to ensure that when you as the consumer reach out, you are taken care of. Today, we have 3-Gun Kenzie on the show. I am so happy she's here, guys. This is probably the 4th time we've had to reschedule this episode, so it is finally happening. Kenzie, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the pod.
Hey, thanks for having me on, first of all. Yeah, it's been a long planning process for people that don't know, but I've been going by 3-Gun Kenzie for a while now because 3-Gun is the heart and soul of who I am. But I'm also a competitive shooter, and I started out in college, so I kind of dove in head first where there was pistol team, and it transpired to shooting USPSA, cowboy action, 3-Gun, of course, and onward. So I call myself a huge competitive shooter. I'm also a firearms instructor. I have the Reticle Up podcast that I host as well. And I own a marketing business in the firearms industry, and I'm a writer. So I think that covers everything summed up on what I do.
Absolutely. No, I love how multifaceted you are. That's incredible. And all of those things, like, they complement each other so well. Like, that was very almost like pleasing to the ear. Like, all of that sounds like it just comes together. And I love what you do personally. I'm excited to go on your podcast, and I love having other podcast hosts on the episode, which I think this is maybe the first time that's happened. So that's
Yay.
Super cool. I'd love to hear about your podcast, though, if you'd like to tell the listeners kind of what you talk about on there and where they can find you.
Yeah, so Reticle Up podcast was something that I had long dreamed to do. And about 2 years ago, I remember talking to a friend of mine that I really wanted to host with me, and she just never found the time. And I'm not one to kind of sit around and wait. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make it happen. So I started the podcast, and I recorded 5 episodes, launched those. And since then, I've published an episode every week since. So I absolutely love the podcast because for me, it wasn't something where I wanted to focus just on 3-Gun or anything like that, but I interview people that are competitive shooters in different shooting sports. I interview entrepreneurs as well in the industry. So I've had, Mike from Supervel on, I've had Notch Gear. So Paul came on and talked about how he founded his company. I've had just so many different people that have a background, I would say, in the Second Amendment. So you think about like anglers, people that shoot archery, hunters. I've interviewed other writers and industry people as well. And so it's just been a really fun thing where it's almost selfish of like me wanting to learn about people. And I love talking to people. So like the podcast is more for me than others. So I'm over 100 episodes now. Yeah, it's addictive. And so I'm not going to slow down anytime soon. I'm sure you can relate.
Absolutely. I swear I was just saying that to Caleb the other day. Like, I get so much out of just listening to people's stories. Like, it's almost like taking a class with someone when they come on for the podcast.
Yeah. 100%.
So I love that you said that. That's almost so validating because I've never heard of anyone else saying that. So I love that you get it. And congratulations on over 100 episodes. I don't think I realized you were over 100. That's huge. Like, from someone who went from posting an episode a month to every other week now to every week. I'm just so impressed by what you're putting out there. That's really, really, really great. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not easy. I know the process. So
oh no,
I get it.
It's not. It's one of those things I feel like you have to kind of just experience yourself to truly understand. Yes. And I'm excited for you to be on today to talk about 3-Gun competition. That is something we have yet to have on the podcast. We've had a few people that do 3-Gun, but I've really never had anyone go into detail on it. So I'm really fortunate you're here, grateful you're here to share with the listeners, because it's something I'd like to do down the road as well. So here's my selfishness, learning from you as well. So for anyone listening, if you're interested in looking into Kenzie, I will link all of her info in the show notes so you can kind of like stalk her page while we banter today. So I'd love to start out with your origin story, Kenzie, where you started with guns, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I was fortunate where I grew up with a gun-friendly household, so my dad's always been a huge gun guy. And what's great is both of my grandpas enjoyed hunting and fishing, and so I kind of grew up. Well, I know I grew up with duck hunting for sure, but I grew up just being outdoors a lot. And so we got to go hunting in the blinds, and we had at the time like labs. So they would run dogs to go retrieve the ducks, which was really cool. And this was in the Louisiana, Texas like border. And they still have a lease on that property today. So I grew up hunting a lot and never really got to the whitetail or anything else, but just that addiction started there. And where the 3-gun comes from too is shotgun's my favorite gun in the world, always will be. So, but anyways, I grew up hunting, and then in college, and dad would take us to the range growing up all the time. But in college, I kind of took some time off because I was focused on, in a really weird way, surfing, coaching softball, just doing so many different like extra outdoor activities. I never really found like guns as a hobby. And it wasn't until I was almost finished with grad school that I Googled Florida State University and shooting. And they had a firearms club. And there are a lot of universities, if people are listening, that have collegiate shooting programs, whether it's skeet and trap, pistol, rifle. Some even have archery clubs now too. So I would look into some of that stuff. And then there's SASP, which is the Scholastic Action Shooting Sports. There's just so much for kids, like whether it's 4-H or what have you. But I was fortunate because without that club, I never would have found Talon Range in Tallahassee. And that range, a couple of things, they hosted tons of matches that got me into shooting. And it was the GSSF, which is the Glock Shooting Sports Foundation match that I first attended. And I went to that match for 7 years in a row, worked as an RO for the 6 years after that first one. So I was on the range every time, every year, just having a blast. And then it transpired into marketing. The range, I asked them, I was like, hey, I really want to do marketing for the range. I pretty much live here. I go to the classes, I, come to the events and obviously use the facilities. And so they said yes. So I started doing their Facebook and their Instagram and their email marketing. And I realized I was pretty good at it and really enjoyed it. So all of that shooting stuff kind of transpired into a career that I never knew was going to come until way later. Still love that range, still love those guys. But I did that for 7 years of their marketing. So anyways, everything transpired from there of diving into the world of shooting.
Absolutely. That's incredible. And I love that you took that initiative and then it ended up being kind of your main career in your story. So that is so cool to hear. Marketing is also not easy. I love that we kind of get each other in that way. We've had a few conversations off camera about this. So thank you so much for sharing your story. That is very inspiring. And for those that are unaware of what 3-gun is, like they hear that phrase and they don't know what that means, could you kind of start from the beginning, the foundation?
Yeah. So 3-gun definitely just stands for pistol, rifle, shotgun. So you're shooting all 3 of guns in a competition or in a match. And there are different divisions within there, but the basic simplicity at its core is that you should just have good, simple gear. So your favorite pistol, like for me, I started out with a Glock 17, iron sights, nothing done to the gun, just pure stock. And I had like 3 magazines. And then an AR-15, if you built one or you bought a, $500, $600 rifle, run it. I don't recommend what I did is I ran iron sights because I didn't even know what a scope was at the time. Like this is very basic. I had just bought an AR from a friend, didn't have anything on it. Could not shoot 400 yards without that, but hey, it was fun. And then your third gun, shotgun for 3-gun is the hardest one, I would say, for barriers to access to get into shooting a match. So I still have a shotgun today. I ran a Stoeger M3000. It's a tube shotgun. But the biggest thing to know is that you need more capacity than like 3-round shotguns, or you're not going to want to go out there shooting a pump action shotgun when there's 20 to sometimes 50 targets on a stage for shotgun because you're going to be reloading and pump action is just not fast. And it's not that it's not fun. It just takes some of the fun out of it when you're always standing there loading. So you need a tube shotgun with an extended tube on it. I run a Benelli M2 now, but basically your core principles is just running I would say a higher capacity pistol. So something with like 17 plus rounds is great. AR-15 and a 30-round mag and a backup mag. That's all you need there. And then having the tube shotgun. And then we'll dive into this in a bit for sure. I know you've got questions on it, but having some sort of loading device for your shotgun is really important of how you're going to hold your shells. I've done it from a pocket and a dump pouch. I don't recommend it. I recommend shotgun caddies is what they're called. And then having a belt. So you don't want to show up with just like a leather belt or whatever you have at home. The belt's going to be your biggest investment. And I see people that have like a sturdy, thick competition belt that's like in the USPSA world, and they'll have like the Tech Lock clips that clips onto the belt. But I highly recommend what's called the Safariland ELS belt. And so this has holes in it, if you can tell, with the Safariland system. So you have like a male part and a female part. These are forks. So the ELS fork system, which is great, you can easily shift gear around. So you could take your mag pouch off, put it in a different spot, or put it back on the belt. So that's really important. And the reason I suggest ELS too is you can take all of this off and just have all shotgun caddies. And a lot of people in 3-gun share gear. So I've shown up to matches and been like, hey, are you running ELS? Perfect. We'll share bag pouches. And then the final piece to 3-gun with the belt is a sturdy holster. We are not going to be using, no offense, sticky holster on Kill Mike's holsters. You need retention. And the one thing I would say that's different about 3-gun is having a holster with a hood. So when you are literally running and gunning around the world, having your pistol in a safe place, I've seen more DQs happen from pistols, like grips getting hung up and pulled out of the holsters, or people running and the pistol go flying. So you want to have some sort of level 3 retention for the holster, specifically for the pistol. So having your gear is magazines, mag pouches, a good belt, and the 3 guns.
Absolutely. So what made you want to go into 3-gun as opposed to like multi-gun, which, right, isn't 2-gun multi-gun? Is that correct?
So there's so many different vernaculars. You could still call like 3-gun multi-gun or call 2-gun multi-gun. Most people are now differentiating 2-gun and 3-gun because it tells people, hey, this is pistol rifle versus pistol rifle shotgun.
Got it.
So, I mean, and then USPSA calls it multi-gun, but that's probably a confusing part about our world. I don't even know how to answer that.
That's totally fair. I guess that makes sense. It's kind of an umbrella term, and then you have 2 and then 3 under it, I guess. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. So did you go from pistol to pistol rifle, shotgun, kind of like built up to that? Nope.
Ew. So I, just like precision rifle series I'm now doing, I decided to go shoot a major match. And that's probably the downside of 3-gun that breaks my heart, is like, it's not as prevalent as Steel Challenge or USPSA. You can't just show up to, a city and find some matches nearby, because 3-gun is, gosh, so much gear, so many targets. You have to have at least, 50 yards for rifle, especially if you're shooting at steel, to make it fun and interesting. But I remember I really wanted to get into 3-gun. I had watched so many videos from what's called the Fort Benning multi-gun match that doesn't happen anymore, which is so sad. But I saw people shooting off of a boat in a man-made dug like lake that Fort Benning had built just for this match, filled it with water, and they were shooting shotgun, tugging a rope, shooting a shotgun in the boat, in the water, right? So like I'm seeing these videos and I'm like, holy crap. And like 3-gun just looks so cool. So many matches I've seen of people zip lining, shooting a pistol. I've seen people like riding rail cars, or I've shot off the back of a trailer. I've shot out of a vehicle, shooting at another vehicle. Like, you won't believe the stuff I've done. So when I saw that, sign up for a major match. And like I said, I had a shotgun with no extended tube, no work done to the gun, which I'll dive into too. I had a stock Glock, iron sights on an AR, and it was the most fun I've ever had. It got me into it. So no, I didn't work myself up to it. I just full send.
Dove in. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that though. I think that's so cool. It really shows like kind of how your past has led you to competing now. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, I've definitely, I'm interested in shooting 2-gun. I think I've mentioned that on the podcast before, kind of like a way to grow into 3-gun, just because I know I couldn't do all 3 at once. But I love that you just kind of like went into it. And I totally get that. Those videos really make you want to go for it. Like, I think that's why I got into USPSA. The idea that you could run and shoot and then be scored and get like instant feedback on your progress. Coolest thing ever. So that's very cool. So who got you into the competitive aspect? Was that just you? Did you just show up one day to a competition?
Okay. So this is a fun origin story. So for Florida State University, On the pistol team, like I knew that we would have competitions coming up, but I got on the team and we didn't have anything starting till the fall. And then the GSSF, that Glock match I was telling you about, was the first ever at Talon Range. I think this was 2014. I signed up, and this was 8 days after I like basically had found the team, right? So I texted my dad and was like, "Hey dad, I'm shooting a Glock match in 8 days and it's a competition." He's like, "No, you're not." I was like, "Oh, I am." I did everything wrong in terms of registration, signing up on the different stages that you have to shoot. It's kind of a cluster how Glock does it. And it was 118-degree record-breaking heat on that day in Florida. Stayed the
Oh
whole day.
my Jesus.
Yeah,
Okay.
it took me like 8 hours to shoot one stage just because of how many people were there. But finished the match, loved it. I had a friend that went with me just because he was a fellow like gun guy in college and grad school that I had met. And he went and just kind of watched, and one of the ROs let him shoot a stage for fun with his Glock. And just the people is really what gets you into it when you see them help out other people and whatnot. So sign up for that. Then I bought a Browning Buckmark 22 to shoot for the like college aspect of it. And then I was told later I moved up to center fire team. So then I went back to the Glock. But I shot that, which was like Steel Challenge. Like I said, then I fell into 3-gun and I signed up for that match. The range also hosted cowboy action shooting. And I had a friend that had come out to me at the range that day, and I was showing her how to shoot a pistol, again, someone else I met in grad school. And we walked over to these competition bays because everyone's dressed up in cowboy clothes, and there's like a cowboy town. I'm like, what is happening? Same thing, though, that happened to me with my buddy is someone offered to let me shoot their guns and run a stage just because I was on the range. I was like, seriously? Like, their ammo, there's 4 guns, there's 2 revolvers in that case. And they walked me through the stage, and I got to shoot it, and then like I signed up for another match. So I won a belt buckle, won like second cowgirl my first match in a Florida State match. Yeah, like I had a blast. I mean, because at that time, like I'd put a lot of work on dry fire, live fire, had been shooting different competitions. And I remember even the range guys that own Talon Range, one of them was like, "How did Kenzie get, pretty good at this stuff?" And they're like, "Well, she's only shooting like every week." So
Right.
it spiraled. Yeah.
It spiraled in like a really awesome way. It seems like. No, that's awesome. And for anyone wondering, that's actually like a legit thing. When I went to my local gun range in Fort Smith, which is like an hour from here, I'm kind of in a similar position as you. I have to drive either an hour to 3 hours to go get a competition under my belt. There are these like cowboy looking, I don't know how to describe, just country looking setups. And I finally got around to asking someone, and they're like, "Oh, that's cowboy action." And I was totally blown away. I'd never heard of it. So I love that you brought that up here, because I don't think that would have probably ever been something I had like prompted someone to talk about. So do you still do that, or was that just kind of like a one-time thing?
So I did it for 2 years, and I just wrote an article about how to shoot cowboy action that's in Old Western magazine, and I still have all the guns, the belt, the holsters, the ammo. Like, I'm going to get back into it at some point. Not a problem. I would say a challenge to cowboy action shooting community, if anyone listens to this, they're not going to like it, is for you to register for a match, you have to print out a piece of paper, a registration form, fill it out by hand, mail a handwritten check to the match director. Keep in mind, it's first come, first serve on slots. So if they fill up on slots and you're the 201st person to get the check mailed to the person, then you don't get in the match. And I mean, and it's the same with practice score, where things sell out is like, this is months in advance. So again, I'm not like bashing that and that maybe it's changed since then, but a lot of cowboy action matches are so far back in the past, even on scores and stuff. They don't use practice score. They don't use modern technology. It's really hard to want to get involved with that when it's sort of outdated.
That is totally understandable. I did not know that. Yeah, I've kind of wondered why I haven't seen it on practice score. That's definitely crossed my mind, but I wasn't really looking for it either. So that's kind of interesting.
There's a lot of monthly club matches. My local range has one. I'm just never in town to attend one.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, because you're just like a little busy, so that
just a little.
Totally fine with your 100 episodes and such. So
I like. No, so I was like, "Are you shooting USPSA monthly here this month?" I'm like, "I'm in Utah. I'm here." I'm like, it is what it is. But I've never in town to actually go like practice locals. Yeah, that's okay.
Totally understandable. Absolutely. And because we've talked before, and I know you love helping people get started, say someone's listening and they're kind of a shooter, enthusiast, maybe they want to get started in competition and their goal is 3-gun. Where would you say they should start?
Yeah. So I would get into some of the Facebook 3-gun groups. There's 3-gun talk, and then there's like 3-gun gear and information, or literally DMing me and I can kind of get you started. But practice score is the number one thing for looking, absolutely, is just search 3GUN. Some of them might have multi-gun, so they might have it under that name like you're talking about. And there used to be different governing bodies. 3-Gun Nation's not a lot around anymore, but there's USPSA multi-gun, which is almost non-existent. Then you have different leagues, I would say. And like even I'll mention PCSL is a good starting point. They're practical shooting, but that is 2-gun primarily right now. Max Lee Grandis runs a lot of that, and he does 1-gun matches. But 3-gun, especially if you're over on the East Coast, like Zoo City Armory puts on a ton of matches. They've just been killing it. Donnie Flo puts on matches over, like I would look at Clinton House in South Carolina. There's a huge 3-gun community though. I think out in, it's like Arizona and Utah and like all of that area. Rio Salado Gun Club, they used to put on a ton of matches and stuff. But I would say reaching out to any 3-gunner, which if you're on Instagram and you probably type in like 3GUN, if you're not shadow banned, there's 3-Gun Kenzie pops up and like all these different 3-gun usernames. Anybody would be really willing to get you help and getting started, especially because we know the gear it takes to get started. So after I got my first match under my belt, and like I said, I still borrowed gear, is like, I probably still borrow gear to this day, is like, you need bipods and bags if you're in a different like open division. Maybe you need, shotgun caddies, which I can talk about this fun loading stuff. But getting started is as simple as asking for help, researching on practice score, looking up your local clubs, or just DMing me, and then I can try to connect you with people that are near wherever you live. But it's not a dying sport, but it's less local matches, like monthly matches, and more you have to kind of go shoot a major match in order to shoot 3-gun, which can be 2 to 3 day matches. And they're intimidating, but they're fun.
Oh, I'm sure. I've yet to go to one. But yes, they look intimidating. I would love to know, would you recommend someone start in USPSA pistol first and then go 2-gun, 3-gun? Or do you think someone should just kind of like follow their passion with that?
I actually do think following your passion's the biggest thing. Is like, if you always wanted to go shoot 3-gun and you say, okay, I'm going to not shoot 3-gun because I'm going to go shoot 1-gun and 2-gun, and like you delay yourself almost, right? Like you're putting off your happiness of going to shoot it. That's just how I live my life. Now, I'm not saying like going to shoot USPSA and going to shoot 2-gun won't help you, because it will teach you shooting on the move, making sure your gear is right for USPSA for sure. 2-gun match is going to help you transition from pistol to rifle. If you have to sling a rifle, that 2-gun matches have a lot of those typically, and teach you how to load an AR, which is a little bit different, how to run a scope, which is a little bit different. So I won't say what path is right for the person, but like for me, 3-gun will always come first. 3-gun was something I always wanted to do. So like for me, that's what I sign up for and I go for it. So the great thing about 3-gun is, including me, everyone is willing to lend you gear, guns, whatever. So if you're thinking like, hey, your barrier to entry right now and why you're only wanting to shoot 1 or 2-gun matches is because you don't have a shotgun. Take that excuse out, message the match director, message the shooters, or just put out a word that you're wanting to shoot it. We will show up with an artillery of options. Like, I'm not even joking of, I've had to borrow one recently where my shotgun wouldn't work that I was borrowing. So I borrowed another one to finish the match. Like, so I'm not making it up when I say we want you in the sport and we would love to help you out.
Absolutely. I love that. And I can kind of attest for the USPSA community. They've been so helpful. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to get started if it wasn't for the people that got back to me. And building a gear list, I like that you went ahead and kind of jumped there, because that is kind of the first step. But also I've heard it sticks around forever. Like your gear changes, the positioning changes. So I love that you bring that up. And actually that exact belt is on my list for my next belt. Yes. I was a little confused, which we don't have to talk about that here, but I was a little confused about how the internal belt works, and then I didn't realize like the inside of that belt is Velcro.
Velcro.
So yep. I did not realize that.
Yeah, so you use your regular inner belt that you have for whatever matches or events that you shoot. So you always have this like the Velcro, and this is really strong, sturdy, hard Velcro. I don't know what it's called, the other version. So it's an outer belt.
Yeah.
But definitely getting like simple magazine pouches for AR. You maybe need like 1 or 2 pouches. A pistol, you might want to look at maybe 4. I've had some like really pistol heavy stages, but I want to dive into this because I know this was my hard point.
Yes,
I didn't
please do.
have shotgun caddies. Okay. Here's 2 things that's going to confuse you just a little bit is you need to know if you're going to load strong hand or weak hand. So I'll cover that in a second. And you need to know if you're going to try doing doubles, meaning 2 shells, or the famous quad loading, which is all 4 shells into the gun. So what this means of strong and weak hand loading is exactly what it sounds like. If you're a right-handed shooter, your strong hand would be your right hand and your weak hand would be your left hand. Now, where this can trip people up is if it's a really long gun. So like I shoot a 26-inch Benelli M2 barrel with a little bit longer tube. It's actually right behind me. So it's, I wouldn't say heavy for me. It's just kind of a long gun, if you can tell here. So
Yes.
what's important about the shotgun is if I'm going to strong hand load, which I'll kind of try to show on video, I'm shooting it and I'm throwing it up over my shoulder. So for me, if I'm going to do doubles or quads, it doesn't matter. The shell, like latch and the release and all that buttons are right here in my workspace. And then I have my lever where I'm going to load the gun. Weak hand is flipped upside down. I can't really show this on camera perfectly, but you're flipped upside down and the gun's actually towards your waist. So this is really low. And your weak hand, you're putting the shells in kind of parallel to the gun. So you don't want to stab downward. You're moving with the follower and everything like that. Where this gets complicated is if you're moving with a shotgun, left and right movement, okay, and you have this stick, you still have 180 degrees. So if you're trying to weak hand load and you're trying to move left, you could actually accidentally move the whole entire gun on a 180 degree if you're trying to move right to left while loading. So for me, having a strong hand load keeps the gun pointed down towards my feet. And if I'm moving left, I'm not moving straight left in 180 degrees. I'm kind of canted at an angle. So I'm always in a safe distance for my shotgun. And then the important thing with the caddies. So I use Invictus Practical. You want really strong caddies that if you like bump it or hit it, you're not dropping shells onto the ground. I've had that happen. And I've set these up 2 ways to try to not confuse people. But if this is on my belt and I'm strong hand loading with my right hand and I'm grabbing the 4 shells, then I'm pulling them off the caddy, just like so in this direction, and loading them in strong hand. Okay, so these were set up this direction. If you're weak hand loading, you got to make sure the shotgun shells are set up in the other direction because you're coming down with your left hand or whatever your weak hand is, pulling them, and you're going that parallel to the shotgun. So you have to set the caddies up to how you're going to load and what hand you're going to load with. So that's really important. And I just set this up on an ELS fork. So these go all on that belt, come on and off, and I can change out my gear pretty quick. Does that help?
It does. Oh my gosh. I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm going to be honest. The only time I've shot a shotgun is like on holidays with my cousins and uncles, and they do clay like target shooting. So I really don't know much about it. I'm not even sure if I loaded my own shotgun when I did it. So I'm appreciating all of this information. I've looked into a few shotguns to purchase to actually start training. That's really the most I know. So any information you want to give about shotgun, love to hear it.
Again, it's the biggest barrier, I think, because their Stoker now makes like an M3K, like worked over 3-gun version. Benelli just came out with its own 3-gun version. Here's what's important. And I used the Terran Tactical TTI tricked out Benelli. It's the loading port. So the loading port really, really needs to be open. On the sides, you can see this is kind of dremeled out. I mean, it's beautifully done. They actually dremeled it further over the follower itself and on the sides, because if you're loading, whether it's right hand or left hand, your thumb is what's pushing those shells in. You don't want to get your thumb stuck, and you need enough clearance to get the shotgun shells in. So all of this has been heavy worked over, and then this has the TTI lifter in it, so that way your thumb doesn't get stuck. I did all oversized controls, so oversized safety, oversized bolt release. It's like a knurled, I would say like can't even think of the word that I'm trying to say, charging knob, and then a match saver. So your match saver, I use probably too much. It's when you run out of shotgun shells and you're not supposed to, and you want to work to throw this in quickly and drop the bolt, and you have that one extra round in case things go poorly. But the other thing that I think people make mistakes on, and the highest level 3-gun shooters will tell you, is that shotgun chokes are more important than you think. So I actually purchased Pure Gold shotgun chokes. Briley gun chokes makes some good ones as well, but I always run a modified choke, a light modified choke. I have a like skeet choke. It just depends on the sport. If you're doing clays and trap and skeet, then you need kind of a lot of different things. But where I've used like mod chokes, really tight ones, they keep the pattern of the shotgun shell very tight. That way, if I'm shooting a target I want to hit that's next to a target called a no shoot that I don't want to hit, you want something tight, so you're only hitting the target you're trying to hit. If I'm shooting a heavy clay stage and I'm just trying to annihilate a clay, I'll say this in 3-gun, you could have one bead hit the target, not annihilate it, not dust it, just literally puncture a hole. So if I shot a open or a good skeet choke like that, then I can just kind of be sloppier, I would say, with my shooting, but knowing that opens up the spread of the beads and it's going to penetrate my target. So shotgun's important, extended tube, an opened lift or an open port area, and then having a good choke system.
So, okay, it's called, can you spell that word?
Choke?
Is it C? Yes.
Yeah, CHOKE. Yep.
Okay, so it is what I thought it was.
Yeah, it's choking, meaning choking down or choking up. So basically, you're the tightest one to spread the BBs further, like closer together and like further out until it spreads, if that makes sense, or open, then it immediately opens up that pattern. So patterning a shotgun is what takes a lot of people, I think, more time to get used to or understand. So they have patterning boards, which are basically like steel type painted targets, or you can shoot paper. But if you shot, say, 15 or 20 yards away with the same choke, or a different choke, with the same ammunition, you can see how the pattern spreads on a target, whether it's paper or steel. You'll see the difference. If you just take pictures or you take videos, it's pretty eye-opening to see how much chokes make a difference.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I would have never considered that as
I love it. I'm addicted to
something you need for 3-gun. So
yeah.
Are you in search of top-notch gear that exceeds your expectations? Look no further than GPS, brought to you by Go Outdoors Incorporated. GPS has been dedicated to crafting the finest products for hunting and shooting since 2002. As someone who frequents the gun range, my GPS bag is a staple to safely and effectively haul my gear. Their specialized bags are designed to keep all of my valuable equipment secure and organized. With GPS, you can experience the ultimate peace of mind. There are 3 exciting product lines: GPS Tactical, GPS Wild About Hunting, and GPS Wild About Shooting provide the perfect solution for your specific needs. So whether you're on a hunting expedition or hitting the range, GPS is your reliable companion. To choose a bag that fits your needs, use code SheetShield at checkout to save and to support the pod. That's SHESHIELD at checkout. So what would you say someone needs to know for rifle shooting in 3-gun or 2-gun?
So I'm a little bougie on my rifle now. I would say if you're shooting 3-gun or want to get into it, shoot what you have. And I mean that because I did it too. So do not worry about gear getting started. Now, if you have the money or if you want to invest in better equipment once you get going, there's a couple things that just make rifle shooting more pleasant. For me, I did a ton of testing with triggers. I think Sofia and I talked about this offline. I have 10 triggers I've been like playing with and all of that. And there are different good ones for different reasons. So finding a trigger that works for you, whether it's a 2-stage, meaning you have a little bit of a take up and then a break, or a single stage trigger where it just breaks pretty fast. You just want something that's comfortable for you. So I like a flat trigger. You might like a curved trigger. I run the Hyperfire. But there are so many good ones. Trigger Tech Diamond, Air Gold. There's just so many out there, but trigger is a big one, and your gas system and muzzle brake. So having a muzzle brake that takes out that felt recoil and does kind of the work for you. I've been using Unrivaled Technologies muzzle brake. I've used the Tactical Rage muzzle brake. It's tunable to your ammo and to you. So having a muzzle brake that's tunable, meaning you can change the gas port's amount of gas that it's taking out or the direction of the gases. So if you're a right-handed shooter or left-handed shooter, you can literally set your gun up to push opposite of the direction your support hand pushes in. So it's custom to you. I have an adjustable gas block, so I like to tune my gas down. It still runs reliably, but it's nice and softer shooting. And then don't do what I did, is I started with iron sights when they shoot out to 400 yards. Get you a low power variable optic scope, so LPVO, you've probably heard of. I run right now a Trijicon 1-8 as their credo, and it's in what's called MRADs, or MRAD instead of mils or MOA. I'm sorry, I'm like talking through all this right now as I'm thinking about it, but
no, this is great.
The MRAD is more of what like military people use, and people use in precision rifle series because it's like a ruler for you. It's a little bit easier to like talk to someone that's also shooting mils than MOA. And MOA, like minutes of angle and all of that, is simple reticles where they have these, there's too much technology in 3-gun, but like called BDC reticles, or they just have what's considered like 4 or 5 hash marks. You have to, I'm going to use so many like terminologies, dope, meaning data after previous engagement. You have to dope your rifle to know what those holds are. So if your ammunition's running 2,500 feet per second or 3,000 feet per second, those hash marks are going to dramatically change between those two velocities because the bullet's moving faster. So that's a lot that people probably didn't want to know, but get a 1-6, 1-8, 1-10, some sort of scope for you to be able to run and shoot out to distance, especially because, like I said, the World in 3-gun, we're shooting out to 600 yards in matches, and that's not really easy to do with iron sights. I know people who can, but that's not me.
Right.
That's not me. And then depending on like what division you shoot, you might only be able to run a scope. For me, and I don't have it mounted on my gun right now because I had to shoot a different match, is I shoot open. So I can have a offset red dot optic where I have that basically dialed in for like 7 yards. So I can shoot close up paper really fast and then switch to my optic to shoot something far away. So that's my rifle world and my spiel. What people need to know that is important on the rifle to hit things is get a chronograph or ask a range. They probably have a chronograph at your range. Shoot whatever ammunition you plan to shoot in competition to chronographic, meaning it's going to shoot that trajectory of that bullet through your rifle, and that's what you're going to shoot in the competition. So it'll give you your data of how fast that bullet's going to move. That way you can understand which holds you're going to have, which mills you're going to have or whatever when you're going to shoot out to distance. Because without that data, without knowing how fast that bullet's going, or if you change ammunition before a match, nothing is going to be what you thought it was. And then you won't be able to hit anything far away. Does that make sense to someone?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That does make sense. That does make sense. So, okay. So I guess the idea I had of 3-gun, first of all, my knowledge on it is very limited.
Sure.
But I didn't realize that you actually shot that far. I thought maybe there were different divisions where like the range at which you shoot varies, but is it pretty much like you get what you get at each stage and you have to be prepared for it all?
Yes. Yeah. So every match is a little bit different and unique, and it depends on which range you're shooting at to be able to shoot out to some of these distances. Because before that, like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but Fort Benning multi-gun, I personally, and I could be wrong, I don't remember shooting anything past about 400 yards. What they've done with Zoo City Armory is we literally just recently had a 600-yard shot. When I shot USPSA multi-gun nationals, Shannon Smith had paper targets out to 400 yards and had a 600-yard field target. And the paper you had to hit twice to neutralize. And so I think, I mean, I've seen the evolution of shooting sports, period. So we've seen USPSA change where they have more activators, swingers, partials, whatever that looks like, where the sport's like moving with the shooters. And so for 3-gun, I have not gone to a match lately that doesn't have something out to 600 yards. It feels very rifle heavy. And it used to be like you had to be good at pistol in order to be a good 3-gunner. Now it's you have to be a good rifleman to even be like a top contender in these matches. So yeah, and it doesn't matter like if you're shooting tac ops or if you're shooting open, there's a huge difference. So I moved. I'll explain what tac ops means. is you're shooting a
Okay,
tube
please.
shotgun. Yeah. So tac ops is you're shooting iron sights on a pistol. Okay. You're shooting a tube shotgun with iron sights, and you only get a scope on your rifle. You do not get any red dot optics on the side, but you can run offset iron sights. And then
Okay.
open, you can use bipods and bags, where tac ops, you're pretty much shooting off of your magazine. If you have something hard to shoot on, people will use like a coupled magazine to have that stability. Whereas that's why I moved. In open, I can have a bipod on the front of my rifle. I can have a bag support. I could shoot off, and I have done it, a tripod. I can set up a tripod on a stage and shoot off of it. And I mean, all of this is still time sucking when you're trying to set up on a tripod or what have you, but there's way more stability in it. And so tac ops, I think, is the harder division, to be honest, because of how complicated it is.
Okay.
And how good of a like rifleman you have to be able to have those skills. And again, I can do it. I don't want to do it, and I don't do it very fast. So open division has been life-changing for me.
That is awesome. So I feel like I'm asking such dumb questions, but I know that these are like, okay, thank you. Because it's one of those things like,
overwhelming.
I almost feel like I should know. That's okay. Very validating. Thank you. So like from USPSA, the little I do know, and that's not me being humble, genuinely, the little I do know, I know I'm in carry optics because I have an optic on my gun. But those there are different divisions. I know there's open even in pistol, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah.
God, I hope I'm not. But
you're right.
Is it kind of the same deal there? Like it's just different divisions, and then you show up and you compete within that one division?
Yeah. And so
that's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, like USPSA Multigun just had tac ops. I butcher the divisions because they're similar across sports, but they don't always have the same name. They had open, they had limited. Okay. Limited is where you're running a red dot as your scope on a rifle, meaning you're having to shoot 400, 600 yards on a red dot optic, which the guy that wins it every time, he just knows to hold like 6 inches high or whatever. There's modified division, which is kind of like carry optics, which Zoo City Armory just adopted carry optics this past year, and they've renamed it modified to kind of align with the other shooting sports in multi-gun. And modified division doesn't change anything about your shotgun, meaning you still shoot a tube shotgun. You're still shooting a rifle with a scope and no offset red dot, no bipods, no bags, but you can have an optic on your pistol. And where I think that that's super valuable is that the world has changed. It's 2023. I don't own a single gun anymore. When I purchase a gun, especially now, everything is optics cut, optics ready. I have red dots on everything. So, and people are carrying guns with red dot optics. They're just easier, guys. So to have tac ops be like the iron sight on a pistol and stuff, like that just doesn't intrigue me at all, because that's not how I carry over into whether it's USPSA or carry a gun every day. Like I want to have a red dot on my gun. So carry optics was a really fun division that they've now called modified. But I shoot open, so you just have a red dot optic on your pistol here. And the other thing I didn't mention, by the way, with open is your shotgun you can still shoot a tube gun. You won't be as competitive, but you're shooting magazine fed shotguns. So you're being able to load, 20 rounds in a magazine and just swap mags instead of sitting there loading. So you don't need the shell caddies anymore. You've just got mags. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's so interesting to know. Wow. I feel like there needs to be. Did you ever use Prezi in school?
I did. Yep, in college.
I feel like there needs to be I haven't thought about Prezi since
No.
Fuck, I don't know. Yes. Sometime in college. Right. But I feel like there needs to be a Prezi presentation on this topic, like all the little intricate pieces, truly and honestly. So if you ever made one, just let me know. I would love to post it. I feel like it'd be really helpful. But I love that you're interested in getting other people into the sport, because it is so daunting. It's so valuable to have people like you that are willing to talk about it. And you're exactly right. The gun community is very helpful, usually in that sense. If they're not, I feel like that's pretty rare. Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that also applies to multi-gun. So that's awesome. What are your goals with multi-gun, 3 guns specifically? I keep catching myself doing that, going forward.
Yeah. Already missed my last, and so this is a vulnerability moment for everyone listening. Sophia already knows about it. My dream for the last 7 years was to go to World Shotgun Shoot, and so the selection for IPSC World Shotgun Shoot is under USPSA. Unfortunately, it's not treated anything like pistol is, neither is rifle, because there's no qualifiers, there's no IPSC shotgun matches in the United States. Pretty much anyone that applied that had already been to an IPSC World Shotgun Shoot already default made the team, and they're going because they've already been. So someone like me that, didn't get into 3-gun until later, didn't really know about World Shotgun Shoot, and here I am. That was all I've been working towards. And so didn't get selected this year. So I have to wait, I think, 3 more years to apply again for the next team because they're in 3-year cycles. This last one happened to be 5 years because of COVID. So everything for pistol got delayed, meaning shotgun and rifle did as well. So my dream one day would be to represent the United States of America on the World Shotgun stage, just because I love shotguns. I'm not the best shotgunner out there, but I'd like to say I'm pretty decent at it. And then similarly, it's kind of a joke right now in USPSA as well. Again, vulnerability moment, guys, is World Rifle selection starts either at the end of this year or soon for 2024. And they don't have a selection process. Again, it's under USPSA. They don't have qualifiers. They don't have any way to choose people. So I won't even go into the drama of what it looks like right now because they're talking about $15 raffle tickets to get entered to win some free items to be selected potentially, and that some of your random stages 5 days in advance at multi-gun nationals will be chosen as your classifier. I can't even tell you how bad it is. So anyways,
You said a raffle ticket, and that pretty much blew me out of the water. So
it's really bad. What's frustrating for me, and I get nobody cares about multi-gun. I get nobody cares about shotgun and rifle, but this was the first year that there was more people that applied to World Shotgun Shoot than had ever applied in the past. So normally if you applied, you got in, you got to go. This year they had to choose, and that's fine. That's awesome. But if you told the highest pistol level competitors in USPSA right now that there's no selection criteria, that it's one person's decision, or that they'd be buying raffle tickets, or letting them know, letting the whole country know 5 days in advance that if you weren't signed up and going to this match, you wouldn't even be entered or have criteria to work to count towards your whatever points, they would be furious. USPSA would be shut down tomorrow, right? But anyways, I didn't want to go too far into that, but I do want to say it's a big issue for me when my heart and soul is multi-gun. So I'd love to go to the World Rifle Shoot. I will apply. I probably won't get it either, and that's okay because politics and USPSA and all that drama is part of it. But for me, for multi-gun is honestly just being happy. Recently, I chose going to shoot 3-man 3-gun with my friends rather than going to this major work event that actually would have been miserable for me. And I'm just happy that I went and shot with friends. And so I just need a little bit of fun time. And so that's what 3-gun really is for me. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know we've talked about this alone. I'm terribly sorry, but I'm glad that I'm glad you have taken the time to review kind of why you're in this. And, it almost sounds like you've gained this perspective of I enjoy this. That's why I'm doing it. I'm not going to stop trying, and I'm not going to stop shooting. So Nope. I'm rooting for you, and I'm sure the listeners are rooting for you in this process. So good luck applying, and I really hope they get their shit together. I really don't know much about that side, but I am not, immune to the fact that there's a lot of, politics involved in really any type of competition. So I'm sure this is just the same kind of deal, and it comes with its own challenges to navigate. So I'm sorry about that.
We'll see. Hey, and if they ever come up with a criteria, your girl's going to check some boxes. So, that's the thing about me is if someone just told me what it took to get there or what they would do, I would do everything it could and everything in my power to do that. So once that happens, if it ever does, and
Absolutely.
I've sent emails about asking for some sort of criteria, some sort of matches or whatever, I will be there. So
okay,
I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like that's the attitude you need.
Yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you did make it. So especially with that attitude. So I'll be looking out for you and keeping tabs on that for sure.
Thanks.
I'd love to kind of pivot, if you don't mind, to instructing firearms. I love getting different perspectives of varying instructors on the podcast. I think it's such a cool thing to talk about. So what classes all do you teach right now? And do you do any women's only training?
Yeah. So with my stupid schedule nowadays, and constitutional carry, which is a great thing, it's messed up the concealed carry like license classes a lot. So, right now I do the big blowout event is my Gals Day at the Range I do every year. It's a massive orchestrated event. We shoot all day, one day, pistols, rifles, shotguns, PCC. We shoot tannerite, Firebird targets, clay targets. We shoot full auto. We shoot suppressed. It's all ages too. Like the range allows, I think 14-year-olds and then all the way up or even 12-year-olds. But I make it a one-day event where women can come out and learn, especially from other women. So like this year I had the most women ROs I've ever had. And it's a safe and comfortable environment for them to just enjoy their day. We spoil the crap out of them. I make sure they get fed tacos, and we had an ice cream truck, and it's all inclusive with their ticket of ammunition, shirt, the food. Like, so it's a major day for me that started, 4 years ago. So it'll be 5 next year. I just wanted to have a day for women.
Goodness.
Yeah. And so the first year there was 5 of us at the range. Second year we had about 10.
Yeah.
And then we went full bore and had 70 the next year and almost 100 this year. And so it's becoming its own thing. Yeah.
So I've missed it. When is it?
Gals Day at the Range.
Yes.
Yes. So it'll be Mother's Day Saturday. It's always Mother's Day Saturday just because it's a good spoiled kind of day. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's something
that's awesome.
I love.
What is oh God, I'm terrible. I know Mother's Day.
It's in May. It's May.
What day is it?
May 13th?
May 12th.
May 12th. Okay. Yes, it's always the Saturday before it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Well, it's at least the 12th this coming year. So
Yes.
it could have been, the 13th. Okay, that's good to know. No, I love that. Okay, I will keep that in mind. Oh man.
Would love
if I
to
could
have
get my
you
mom to
teach.
go to that would be.
I would love to have you teach.
Teach?
Yes. No, we need you.
I'm thinking showing up and
We need you. We need you. We need.
But hey, I would be so down to teach as well. No, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'll have to think about the balance of seeing my mom because I know she wouldn't want to shoot, but I'm trying to think. May is probably, it's getting hot, but it's probably not crazy hot yet, right?
No.
So not bad weather.
It's awesome. This year
I can just tell her we're going to get tacos.
This year was 75, 80. And the year before that was cold. It was 65 degrees out, but it was so wonderful because you're having to walk around stuff. But we had pop-up canopy tents and everything. And the surprising thing is we've had women up to probably 70 years old out there. And I've seen a grandma shoot full auto. It's something where it's so little intimidation, and she could start on 22s. I think this year I might incorporate some airsoft into it too, but there are like-minded people there, and I had 4 people at this event of all ages that had never even picked up or seen a firearm before. I don't even know how they found out about the event or anything, but they signed up and they showed up, and all 4 of them were by themselves. One girl completely drove in by herself. That takes guts. So I love that. And then right now, I teach private lessons or more of a private hosted type event. So I have a all women's class coming up next month for how to actually use and deploy a concealed carry gun. So it's not a permit class. It's not a basic shooting class. They're going to show up with whatever gun that they carry with mags, pouches, the holster, and they're going to learn to draw from concealment to shoot and move. I've asked them to set up places where we could have a car parked or something, and they can learn how to shoot under a car, over a car, maybe even drawing if they can from the seat of a car, just understanding unconventional shooting positions you're probably going to be put into. And I'm bringing a ton of my own gear. I work a lot with crossbreed holsters, so I'm going to have my modular holster set up. I'm going to have my belly band. And so for them to kind of get used to how to clear clothing, if they have a purse, how to clear that purse. If it's on their strong shoulder, they probably should put that purse on a different shoulder, or have a crossbody, or have a backpack. It's about your safety and being able to access your firearm. And so all these women that cripple themselves with the heels they wear, the purses they have, it just drives me insane. And then the excuses on you can't carry. without a belt or belt loops or pants is all BS. You've proved it time and time again on your Instagram, on your videos, getting ready with Sofia. That, yeah, there's no BS anymore, guys. It's, yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. I love that you're starting to add that. And I've added that into my classes as well, but they're like a way in the future because I wanted to kind of start with the basic class of introduction to pistol. I think getting my feet under me in the instruction world is like the first step. And then I'm wanting to move into that as well. I think that's great, especially when it's not in the form of like getting your permit. It's just coming to a class to learn how to like draw and talk about all aspects of concealed carry. I love that you're offering that. I think it's vital, especially in the sense of like women's only. You never know where women are coming from. So I love that you're kind of incorporating that as well. That's super cool.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'd love to get the information for your Women's Day. I'll put that in the show notes so anyone listening can go to that. And where is it located, if you don't mind? I'm not sure if you've already said it.
No, I didn't. So I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. So normally it's in this area. We've had to move ranges now. So I've had it 2 different ranges in the area, but no matter what, should be Eastern Tennessee. I know you'll put in the show notes, but everything for me is 3gunkenzie.com. I am so branded, like Facebook, 3Gun Kenzie, Instagram, 3Gun Kenzie, surprise, 3Gun Kenzie. That the website has like my portfolio, my classes, the Gals Day event, the sponsors from this past year. So you can kind of get an overview of what I do. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely linked. And since we're kind of on the topic of self-defense, I haven't had someone come on and specifically talk about home defense. That's still kind of on my wish list. When it comes to pistol versus rifle versus, shotgun home defense, I know there are various schools of thoughts schools of thought, on this one topic. But since you're so proficient, beyond proficient with your shotgun, is it something you have incorporated into your home defense?
I have a shotgun staged in a room that is like actually the original, it sounds funny, but 20 gauge pump action shotgun that I grew up on. And because it's so short, it was like a kid's shotgun. 20 gauge was fine because I had slugs for it. So it's something that I have yes and no on the, I think, defendability and the know-how of how to just shoot a gun like that. And the length of the shotgun's the big thing. So you will not see me clearing my house with my Benelli or my Soger or whatever, right? The Genesis 12 gauge that I shoot and open with the magazine fed shotgun is actually meant for home defense. They do videos of room clearing. And so military is using it. And so if you have slugs, if you're comfortable with like an AR platform shotgun, that's going to be the same size, the same length. You can get them in shorter barrels and stuff. That's a great option if you were putting in the work. I would say dry firing and live firing, but still I'm probably the most prepared. I'll say prepared. That's a good word. Female. Plus you are too, I'm sure. But on my bedside, I have what's called the bedside backup, actually from Crossbreed Holsters. It's this cool insert that goes between the mattress and the mattress, like sand base thing.
Frame.
Yeah. And then it's on the side, it hooks in, and I have actually a SIG in a modular holster and a spare mag pouch in its own like mag pouch modular thing that velcros. So on the side of my bed, if I roll over, I can really draw my pistol out of the holster. So it still has that trigger guard contained. It's not just sitting willy-nilly on the nightstand. And then I have a spare mag. And then I also have a suppressed rifle. So that's the thing is I don't know what it'll look like if ever to have a home invasion. I don't know how many people that might happen or be trying to, come in. You don't know the scenario. But if you haven't, I know you're going to, but if you haven't dove into the world of suppressors are huge for having at home. And what's funny is I just got a threaded barrel for my SIG, so the pistol I'm talking about, and so I can thread now that on. I have a threaded suppressor onto the pistol because you're going to lose your hearing protection, or you're going to lose your hearing without hearing protection. It's going to be louder in your house. And I don't know very many people, I don't know about you, that have actually had the ability to shoot indoors or shoot out of a room or shoot out of a shoot house. I've shot in so many different shoot houses and everything is louder. The concussion's worse. I've shot under cemented ceilings before. I mean, it just kills you. So having an AR suppress is something that was really important to me. And so I've kind of dove into that world. So maybe that didn't answer it, but
absolutely
all the guns suppressed.
No, it did.
Having them throughout the house is helpful as well.
No, absolutely. I'm starting to kind of build my home defense. And as we've talked about, I moved from a 450 square foot loft to now a 2-story house. So I I'm absolutely kind of going beyond my little pistol defense. And yeah, that's something I've really started thinking about recently. Like if I had to shoot someone with a pistol, even like outside, it like without hearing protection, it could hurt. So I can't imagine, within these walls how that would feel. And especially when you get to a higher caliber, that's something that I've recently, I think, just started thinking about because you and I have talked about suppressors here and there. People will tell me about their setups, whether or not I prompted and asked them to, and they'll like talk about the suppressors they have. And I got to a point where I was like, what is up with these suppressors? Like, why? And that's why I love this podcast. Cause like I get to learn about things like that, things that like I didn't even know to think about. So I am very glad you went into that. That's awesome.
So December 2022, 0 suppressors. It's now July of 2023. I have 6 out of jail and I have 6 more in jail. And so we went full insane, but you will have the same problem. It's addictive. When you get that first suppressor, you're going to be like, oh, I get it now. And then you're going to have 10 more. Like, bad. Bad.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. And for those kind of wondering, we don't have to go too much into it. I don't know if that's, stop me if you don't want to bring this up today, but Kenzie's kind of hooked me up with Sylvan Arms. So I will hopefully be posting some suppressor content soon. I won't be able to have it in my possession at home, but I do have a home range I can go to, and they're going to be okay with me utilizing it within that range. Yeah. So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, I'm sure it's just like getting into anything with guns. It becomes exciting, and then you like drop all your money on it. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, you're gonna have a good time. The
wonderful.
The thing that's always put me off is just the wait, right? Is like I like taking things home. I like instant gratification. I just thought that it was such a pain. And then really, truly, honestly, doing the paperwork for them and forgetting about them. I'm happy I did it because I should have had them sooner. So like when I'm shooting precision rifle series now, I only shoot suppressed. It takes a lot of that felt recoil out of the gun. And that's the other thing that I noticed with the Gals Day event is I have the Sylvan Arms Warthog 30 cal suppressor that I put on my 30 cal home defense short AR pistol. And it's less intimidating for people, especially smaller frame females, to try this like suppressed gun. It's quiet. So you're not like having that scary like jerk reaction at the sound. And it is just something where it takes a lot of the felt recoil out, especially pistols. I mean, the pistol, if anything, nosedives because there's no recoil coming up to fight. So anyways, the process is annoying. The government sucks. What's new? But like having a suppressor really is a fun thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And for those kind of wondering, what all do you have to do in order to obtain one legally?
Yeah, I mean, legally you have to be able to own any sort of like firearm. So 21 and up. And there's a couple ways to do it. So you could go to Silencer Shop online. Silencer Shop, you can like do your fingerprints and mail them in and get them printed. There are more nowadays Silencer Shop FFLs. So wherever you go to buy firearms, you have to look this up. But there are FFL dealers that will have what's called like a fingerprint machine from Silencer Shop, like on their property or in their FFL building. So like I know even Talon Range, they have an outdoors thing and they are a retailer for Silencer Co. But you go in and you're going to scan. So you're going to actually do fingerprints of yourself. You're going to take like a passport photo of yourself. You're still filling out like a form that's basically applying to own that suppressor. So this is the fun part of it, is it's a tax stamp. So you have to find an FFL. This is what's confusing, with an SOT. So your FFL, not all FFLs are SOTs, but all SOTs are FFLs. So like my normal FFL that I use down the road, they have to pay a lot more money and have a lot more like different security stuff to be able to have suppressors. So he's not one. So I go to Tennessee Silencer here locally. And again, the process is kind of annoying, but you're paying $200 for the tax stamp. You're filling out fingerprints, your picture, and then you're waiting. So the government's going to review this in probably 8 months, maybe a year, could be 2 years. You don't know. And not to go too far in the weeds, but I did mine as an individual. versus you can do them as a trust. When you do a trust, you have to set up a trust. There's more people you can add to a trust. So like if I want to share my suppressors with Sofia and let her be able to use them and travel with them or whatever, I could add her to the trust. I can also remove her. That whole process could take 2 years to approve. Again, we were diving so far in the weed of suppressors, but you basically wait. And then at some point you get an email from the government. Yeah, it's pain that says your tax stamp is approved. You can go pick up your suppressor. And so right now as an individual, Form 4s are like 8 months. You didn't know you can make your own suppressor. That's a Form 1. Here's what's crazy. Some redneck can go make their own suppressor at home, Form 1 it, and they've been coming back as soon as like a month in paperwork. But somebody buying a suppressor from a reputable company who's been making suppressors forever, who knows their stuff, like, and it's trackable, serialized, all of that, fill it's a Form 4 and they can wait a year. It makes no sense. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I don't know everything on suppressors, but there's a lot of ways to do it.
Sounds like you do, honestly. When you and I were talking first, I thought you just needed like, I don't know. You told me you needed a piece of paperwork, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of panicked and I was like, I can't remember what she said this was. So I was like Googling it, and then you wrote me back and you're like, I also need this. Good. And I was like, shit. So I had to like write my range again. And then it took a second to get that back. And it was a whole thing even between you and I, and you were very patient with me. So that's very, very kind.
I'd rather have you in it and get it than you not being intimidated by the process that you don't even want to ask questions, like,
Right.
And the thing with the range that you're lucky, and I am too, is that if you can find like a store, an FFL or SOT, whatever, that allows you, I'll call them conjugal visits with your cans, that's the store you want. So I literally can take the guns that I have, that I have the suppressors that are still in jail, so waiting to be approved, and I can take my guns to my SOT and I can literally mount the suppressors with supervision from the guys, shoot them there, take the can off, leave it with them. At least I can shoot my suppressor for the 8 months, 10 months, whatever I'm waiting. And so that's what Sofia is talking about, is like she'll be able to actually experience her suppressor for a little bit before actually being able to take it home.
No, that's really nice. Yeah. I'm glad. Yes. But you and I are very fortunate that we have that set up. That's awesome. Thank you for explaining that. I'm sure someone listening is like, oh my God, like either A, I wanted one, now I don't, or B, like I was scared to get it, but now I know more about it and I'm informed so I can get one. So hopefully it's the latter. But something I realized I failed to ask you earlier is like how you break up. It's kind of going back to 3-gun. This is really the last prompt I have, like as far as like topics I wanted to hit. So we're like totally transitioning back really quick. When it comes to training for the 3 different types of guns, how do you balance that? And obviously it takes probably 3 times as much time compared to just training pistol. But how do you balance that? Do you just pick which gun is like most difficult for you or challenging and then focus on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As far as like pistol work, I have totally relied on shooting USPSA for pistol improvements. So, like, I don't dry fire nearly as much as I used to, or that I should at all with pistol, because it's something that I'm always like competing with, whether it is 3-gun or USPSA or Steel Challenge. Like I'm pulling a trigger on a pistol. And even with my work, like as much as I write and do stuff in the industry, I'm always shooting a pistol. And Jerry will even tell you this. Jerry Mitchell, like he said it before, is like, I pull triggers more. Every time I pull a trigger, even if it's not his gun, maybe he's at an event, he's making that trigger pull count. He's seeing the sights count. And so when I'm at these work events, I don't just go like mag dump. It's like, I want to shoot at a target. I want to see if I'm in a trigger prep. This is a weird thing I do. I always ask if I can dry fire the gun before ever pulling a trigger, especially if it's one I don't know. So for pistol, I've kind of relied on just my experience of shooting matches to improve. And it has, like, greatly. I used to be a terrible pistol shooter. The rifle. Before I ever leave for a major match for 3-gun, I'm spending a lot of time at the range. So I always redope, meaning like recheck my chronograph and make sure that I have like the right hold, especially if I'm shooting a scoped gun, and confirming that data. So I only shoot like 75 grain in long range shooting versus 55 grain. And so I'm just making sure that I zero my gun with the 75 grain. I make sure I chrono my gun with the 75 grain. But before I left for the last one, I was just now shooting open. So I spent some time with learning my bipod because I'd never really shot with a bipod before. And then I spent time, it sounds weird, but I even use my truck, and I can do this at my range, using a bag off the side of my truck and trying to get stable on the bag. Shooting offhand at 50 yards, meaning just unsupported, standing with a rifle. I suck at it, shooting at teeny tiny pieces of steel. So for me, it's less about tackling everything and more of like, what do I suck at? Well, positional rifle, bags, bipods, like I don't even know the gear yet because I'm like a newborn in open. And then just working on that offhand bit. Shotgun is easier to shoot because it's more of like that spread bead patterning gun. It's not as hard to hit things if you know your chokes, you know the patterns of your shotgun. But when it comes to tube gun, you need to sit at home and dry fire like your life depended on it. I'm talking about every day you need to be dry fire, dry fire, dry fire. And so I do not use live ammo in my house ever. When I dry fire, I have snap caps for shotgun even. So I have these dummy shotgun rounds. These are not them, but I sit there and I load, quad load, strong hand, weak hand. What's really funny is like I only strong hand load, but the last match I shot, I put shells all over my belt and I ended up having to weak hand load on the clock. Well, I've done it before in competition. I used to do it way back in the day and I dry fired it. And so I switched to my weak hand and loaded weak hand. And people are like, how do you do that? Well, I dry fire. So it wasn't something that I was afraid to do. So the biggest thing with shotgun is you're going to want to learn to load. If it's an AR mag fed shotgun, but when it comes to a shotgun, make sure you know where your slugs hit. I do not go to a match without shooting the slugs I'm going to shoot in the match through my gun. Here's the kicker. Through the different chokes I'm going to shoot, because changing the chokes will change the impact of where your slugs are. So all of that to say is that I spend a lot of time dry firing and live firing. And then I know I'm rambling, but this is important too. I have started to shoot precision rifle series. I've shot 3 major matches, 2-day matches. I've got 3 more coming up. The reason, and I am not a PRS shooter. Like I enjoy it. I think it's a blast. It's not something that like pumps me up like 3-gun. But the reason I signed up for PRS this year is to become a better rifleman. I am learning to shoot off of tires. I'm learning to shoot at 500-yard moving targets. I'm learning to shoot off of rungs, prone, on the clock, like with 90 seconds timeout of a rifle stage. So I am putting myself through hell, my literal hell, at shooting things because I need to learn wind. I need to learn positional. I need to learn the gear. So for me, PRS has been my way of getting better with a rifle and 3-gun. And that's what I'm really passionate is that I go out and find what I struggle with and I hate it. And then I go put myself through torture to get better.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense though. And I feel like that's a really great way to like model what you end up training, because otherwise you stick with what you're comfortable with and then you limit your growth. So it's really encouraging to hear from you, especially as someone who's really early on in her journey. That's really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
That's a good question. That was perfect. Yeah. Like you want to practice the stuff you like and you can still do that, but you got to go practice the stuff that sucks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And as far as your journey with content creation, marketing, all of that, I'd love to know where you're kind of planning on going with that. It doesn't have to be an exact 5-year plan, but just like maybe your goals in that area.
Yeah. My biggest thing that I don't know if it was right time, right place, or just everything happens for a reason, was working with Athlon Outdoors. And so not the optics company, people confuse those, but Athlon Outdoors owns Tactical Life, Ballistic Magazine, Personal Defense World. So they have all these publications, and I don't know what's next, but like this whole year of 2023, I got the opportunity to be the face of Free Gun Friday. So their video series giving away guns and gear and ammo and all sorts of stuff. And so my goal is just to continue to work with them. They do a writers event each year that does like a roundup of everything we see at this event. And that magazine, it's funny you asked that, just came out yesterday. I got the email that the Rendezvous 2023 roundup finally came out. And so for me, my articles, my goal with that is just to learn. So similar to you is like, I want to hate some of these guns, it sounds bad, that I get for reviews. Like I've never shot them. I would never buy them. I have preconceived notions about the brand or whatever. And I get them and like, feel bad to say this, but one of the guns, the Ruger Security 380, is like one of my favorite pistols I've ever shot. It blew me out of the water. And a guy that I know that didn't know I had the gun for review shot it at another event. And he was telling all of his buddies and me about how great the gun was. And so we're all cracking up. We're like, bullshit. And then we shoot it and we're like, oh, Kenzie and Aaron are right. I'm like, yeah, like this gun's awesome. And so for me, like the opportunity to write and do content and work with these brands is more for me to learn about the technology and the innovation that these companies are coming up with, and being able to take that knowledge to a class, take it to a match, or, you know, I'm sure you get all the time, people DM me and ask me like, what optic for under $200 could I afford? Or what rifle would you recommend? Or what ammo do you shoot through this? And so for me, it's like, I've tested that. I've tried that. I've put this many rounds through that, you know, like I'm a legit person that spends time behind all of this. So I don't know where it's going to take me next, but the writing and all that has just been a learning opportunity for me, and just a blessing in disguise to get to work with so many brands, try things I wouldn't normally try. And I truly am learning when I'm doing a lot of these articles myself. Like even those triggers, again, I would have never bought 10 triggers. I would have bought maybe 3 of these, but the other ones are surprising me. And so you can tell I get excited and ramble, but it's just a blessing to be able to get to do what I do.
That's wonderful. Yes, absolutely. I understand many, many aspects of that. You definitely know a lot more about, honestly, all 3: pistol, rifle, shotgun. So it's been an honor to have you on, and for you say it's rambling, but it's like you're answering my question. So please don't worry about that. But I totally get it. It's weird. Like when you host a podcast, you're like, please ramble. But then when you're on as a guest, it's like, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. So I'm very, very glad you went into all of that. Thank you so much for sharing that with the listeners. You've been incredibly vulnerable and just very gracious to share that. I'm sure someone out there is connecting with you, and it's helping them in some way or another. If anything, just kind of get excited about this, potentially starting something in this career path, which has been something I've gotten a lot of questions about lately. People have asked me, like, what are the pros and cons of being in the gun industry and the community, and what does it take to get started? And it's its own topic. There could be a whole episode on that. So
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I thought you were going to say something. It's lagging, so I couldn't tell if you were talking.
I didn't want to interrupt. I mean, like I'll say really quick.
Go for it.
To start though in the industry is to start. And it doesn't matter what that looks like. If that means you need to go take a class, if you need to go show up and shoot a match, if you want to get writing under your belt and you need to reach out to companies, or write your own blog for like 6 months and prove that you can write. Like, I'm just so tired of giving advice for people on how to start and then they never start. It's like, you have to just start. Like, I don't care if it's garbage. I don't care if it's you posting once a day with a following count of 2 people. Like, if you just can prove that you will show up and do the work and get started, that's all you need to hustle and show people your value. I don't have a huge following, but mine are people that are listening, watching, learning, you know, and brands see that. And I'm not just on this social media. It's like I'm out there at events, trade shows, at matches, and spreading word of mouth. And so like there's value in all of that. But yes. So when people ask you, just tell them, just go start.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. That's encouraging to me even. I've mentioned on episodes before, I almost feel paralysis with posting because I like want to wait until I know more. I keep kicking the can down the road. So I'm really thankful that you shared that. And that's, as far as questions, that's all I really had prepared for today. Is there anything, even though that was an incredible, encouraging statement, is there anything else you would like to share with the listeners before we end the episode?
I will just say, we've already said it before, but our community is awesome. And I would say reach out to your favorite people that you follow, you know, give them a DM, ask questions. I mean, that's the only way that you learn. I've asked thousands of questions, even though I might be like here in the gun knowledge world. For me, I know that I don't know 7,000 billion more things, right? So I'm always learning and asking questions. And so just telling people listening to this podcast is ask for help, ask for suggestions. You don't know what you don't know until you do. So just reach out.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kenzie. I've enjoyed our conversation a lot today. I'm glad we finally made it happen. And if you're listening and I'm so glad. If you're listening and you're interested in exclusive content from today, you can join the She Shield Patreon. I'm actually about to hop on an episode with Kenzie as well. So Check out her podcast linked in the show notes if you want to hop over and get more out of our conversation and listen to that. You can visit She Shield on Instagram and TikTok at She Shield Podcast or She Shield Pod. And a special thank you to Sagetta Gear, one of the official sponsors of She Shield. For concealed carry and duty gear, you can use code SheShield10 for 10% off your Sagetta Gear order and to support the podcast. All resources mentioned are in the show notes. I know I've said that a lot. And if you like the podcast, you can help greatly by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review. If you or anyone you know is a firearms owner experiencing a crisis, look into holdmyguns.org. They are an organization that will connect you with a local gun shop or FFL to store your firearm for you. The link to access their website and to find a storage location or partner is available in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and in the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant. Are you ready to step up your shooting game? Introducing Walkers Incorporated, the pioneers in ear protection for shooting, hunting, and commercial applications. For over 25 years, Walkers has been revolutionizing the industry, ensuring your hearing safety and enhancing your shooting experience. Anytime I'm on the range, indoor or outdoor, I use Walkers ear protection to have crystal clear communication with my fellow shooters. I currently use the Silencer 2.0s and the Razor Slims for my range adventures. Not only does Walkers protect your hearing, but they also protect you. Being able to communicate with others on the range is vital to personal safety. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your safety when the ultimate goal is for overall better self-protection. With Walkers, you'll experience unparalleled comfort, unmatched innovation, and the industry standard in shooting ear protection. Never settle for anything less when it comes to your safety and enjoyment on the range. You can save on Walker's ear protection and support the podcast by using code SheShield. That's SHESHIELD at checkout.